Thomas Crooks.
Thomas Crooks. No!
We have more questions.
They got him getting his diploma. I don't know where they got their footage at, but shout out to them. You know, it's definitely about to be a good documentary if they got that type of footage. Can't wait to see what we about to get into.
And answers right now surrounding the horrifying shooting of former President Donald Trump and others at a rally in Pennsylvania. From the motivation of the identified shooter to how this even happened, we're going to break down these issues with retired FBI agent and attorney Bobby Chacon. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime.
Sidebar.
Jesse Weber.
It's about to be a good one.
So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country.
Look at that. It was all the way down here. Now that joint spiked all the way up there. I didn't even know at his rallies he be having charts like this. But if you're going to talk, it's good to have a chart that you can actually point at. Because it's different when you say something to someone and you actually show it to him. He's not just saying it. He's showing it too. If you don't believe me, check the stats.
Probably 20 million people.
20 million.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And
wow,
if you want to really see something that said, take a look what happened.
That whole situation just is crazy how that happened. And how did the sniper get that many shots off? It's just crazy. The whole situation is crazy. We never seen nothing like this in our lifetime. We just heard about Abraham Lincoln. We just heard about John F. Kennedy. And we almost saw Donald Trump. It's great. God's grace that nothing happened to him. But this is just a crazy situation. And this is not what America's about. We got two people running a race. Let the best man win. To do stuff like this is just uncalled for. Look at everybody getting down. I'm spraying water. Wow. Dang. Yo, he got the blicky with the not the banana clip, the full, not the like Dick Tracy used to have with the 100-round clip in that thing. That is crazy. I didn't know the CIA been running around like that. That's crazy. Wow. Move. Donald Trump looked dazed when he got up. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure he was in shock, didn't know what was going on, couldn't believe it was happening. Like, I'm looking at it right now, and I can't believe it's happening. I can't even see myself being involved in a situation like that. But, you know, Trump, he handled like a G. I think that is just so tough. We just seen somebody take a couple of shots at Trump, and the first thing he do when he get up, fight. He earned so many points by doing that with a lot of people. It's just crazy. Anybody else would have been running off that stage trying to get inside their bulletproof car. He's staying on stage. I know security told him, like, yo, let's get you off of there. He's like, yo, forget that. I got to let the people know. Fight.
We still have a lot of unanswered questions in the aftermath on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump from this past Saturday, and we want to talk about it. This is a horrific shooting that left the Republican nominee for president with a damaged ear, two people critically injured, 57-year-old David Dutch, 74-year-old James Copenhaver, although now they are in stable condition. And sadly, this also led to the death of firefighter 50-year-old Corey Competore, who was apparently shielding his family from the gunfire.
I mean, that's what any real man would do. Shout out to him. A situation like that, you want to cover up your loved ones. He lost his life, cover up his his loved ones. But that situation, like, you didn't even hit the target that you intended to hit it. You hit innocent bystanders that have nothing to do with nothing. That's the worst part of all of this, that innocent people got hit and somebody lost their life tragically on that day.
When he was killed. It's just heartbreaking to think about what happened here.
It's crazy.
And authorities, they have identified the shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew
20.
Crooks, a Pennsylvania resident, as we reported on our previous sidebar on the shooting. Reporting indicates Crooks was a loner, had been bullied in school. He had tried but failed to make his school's rifle team because apparently he was a bad shot. The FBI
Yo, that's crazy. He could not make the rifle team because he was a bad shot, and thank God he was a bad shot, because they could have went all the way left for Trump. But they most of the time, if you do like somebody psychological report, most of the time the people that do stuff like this, they are loners. So he fit the traits of somebody that would do something like this.
Leading up this investigation, looking into this shooting, and at this point, reporting indicates the shooter had used an AR-style weapon, a 5.56 rifle. Reporting indicates that the firearm was purchased legally by Crooks' father, although it's not clear how he was actually able to gain access to the gun. The shooter was positioned about 130 to 150 yards away on a nearby roof, this seemingly on the outside perimeter of that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The shooting took...
And that's what a lot of people was talking about, because we all know with the CIA, they checked all these places. Whenever they know wherever you're going to be set up at, they look and they check all the places where anywhere a shooter could be at. They check windows and make sure everything is good before they get on stage. So a lot of people are concerned about how did this happen. When the CIA checks all this stuff, people know their briefings and their protocols, and from their protocols, stuff like this is not supposed to happen at all.
Place about 6 minutes into Trump's speech.
6 minutes.
And after the shooting, law enforcement discovered rudimentary explosives in Crooks' car that was parked near the rally. This included an apparent IED. They also discovered bomb-making materials in his home.
Dang. So shouts out to them for actually getting this guy, because it seemed like it could have got a lot worse. I didn't know about all this. He having bombs and stuff inside of his car. That is crazy, and that make this story even a little bit more wilder. This is already a wild story. It just got wilder
as well. And apparently Crooks also had a remote control detonator
Damn.
on his body as well. So it makes you think about how much more destructive and lethal.
You may hear about stuff like that with the Taliban. You don't really hear about stuff like that with people in America, and that is crazy. Now people are going to speculate, like, how did he even get all this type of stuff to begin with?
This event could have been. But we have so many unanswered questions about what led up to this shooting, how it happened. And so with that, I want to bring on right now retired FBI agent and attorney Bobby Chacon to talk more about it. Bobby, thanks so much for coming on.
Bobby.
First, let me just say, tell our audience why it's so important that the FBI is taking the lead on this investigation.
Well, first of all,
man, we already know. I can say it before you even say it. The FBI get their job done. You got the state, and then you got FBI. The state might not be able to find out who this personal information is. The FBI got more resources. They're going to find out everything there is to know with this guy. They're going to know what he ate for breakfast, the last time he took a number 2. They're going to know anything. The FBI go through everything. We know they dot their I's and they cross their T's at the end of the day.
The FBI has a lead on all investigations involving assassinations or attempted assassinations of presidents or any other federal authority, federal official. That's the FBI's jurisdiction. That's what we do. Here, we're talking about two kind of separate investigations that people shouldn't confuse. One is of the shooter, his actions, how he got to do it. The other is the internal Secret Service or more government-wide investigation into the security lapses. Those are two separate.
Security lapses. Everybody's saying the CIA, you dropped the ball. This was not supposed to happen. It even went too far. They started calling out the females. They said one female, she pulled out her blicky and it fell, or she was like scared or timid. They were saying maybe we don't need as many women in the Secret Service as we have in the Secret Service. I'm all for fair and equal rights, but that situation, it didn't look good for females being in the CIA.
Investigations. Secret Service is left to do their own internal audit about how this happened. The FBI is just looking at the shooter, his motivations, and how he was able to carry it out up until the point, he pulled that trigger. So those are two separate issues. They kind of do overlap and merge a little bit, but the FBI is always in charge of any investigation of violence towards government officials.
Okay. Everybody, we're going to get back to this historic story in just a minute, but I want to thank our incredible sponsor here on Sidebar. Look, if you can make they want, this is at least about the motivation here, or the apparent motivation. The FBI has resources that another agency doesn't.
Well, I think so. I mean, we're the largest government agency in terms of a budget, and the CIA has a bigger budget, but I'm talking about manpower, the number of agents, and the budget we have for investigations. Sure.
That's the thing about the FBI. They got the manpower, and that's what they be telling criminals. Criminals have to go to sleep. FBI, they have people on shifts at all times. While you're sleeping, someone's still working on your case. So it's always work being put in 24 hours out of the day, and that's what make them who they are.
We're the largest federal agency to do that. Other, DEA focused on drugs, ATF on guns, but we cover everything. So the FBI does have that broader jurisdiction and therefore broader resources.
Let me ask you the most basic question when we talk about unanswered questions. Why, if it's true that he is the shooter, Mr. Crooks, why would he purportedly do this, and how important is determining motive here? Because I think that's an important point, right?
I think that is great questions that everyone to know. The first question is, why did you even do it? And the second, anytime it's a crime, is what was the motivation? What motivated you to do this? Because you had to know 9 times out of 10 you wasn't going to make it back alive. So what was your motivation? It had to be some strong motivation. And I hope you got the answers to that, because I personally want to know.
Important is it to understand the motivation surrounding it, and what could the possible motivation be here?
Well, I mean, Jesse, look, without any political assassination or attempted assassination that this is, there's an implied motivation. He wanted Donald Trump dead because he didn't want Donald Trump to become the next president. I think that's kind of an implied thing. I mean, he might have hated Donald Trump for other reasons, but
it looked like a good way that he implied it. That does make sense, the way that he labeled it out. It's a stupid reason to me, but at the end of the day, it could have been a motivational factor for this guy.
It's hard to see that he took this action for any other reason other than he wanted to stop Donald Trump from becoming the next president.
That's crazy.
I mean, he might have had a grievance with Trump for other past actions that Trump may have taken while he was president the first time. But this is a
seemed like he got mad about that border thing. You know what I'm saying? Because right, he was talking about the border and all these immigrants getting in here. That's where they started letting off. I don't know if he got some illegal cousins or something he trying to get in here, but it seemed like after that statement about the immigrants, that's when the shot started to be let off.
Political assassination, and normally those things have that implied motive of you want to stop this person's political ambitions.
Well, this is why it's strange, because CNN is reporting that investigators have kind of hit a roadblock. They've been looking at his phone, they've been looking at his computer searches, they've searched the home, they've interviewed friends, family, and they can't piece together a definitive motive. There's reportedly nothing out of the ordinary. They find an interest in coding and gaming, but they can't seem to find any kind of political ideation, any religious motivation.
And that's crazy that they couldn't find that, because most situations like this, the FBI is going to your Google searches and look at what you've been looking up on Google that will give them motivation. Like he's been looking at X, Y, and Z. That's why he feel like he did that. But when they went into his searches, they couldn't find anything. So that leave a lot of question marks, because why did you do this? And we don't have any proof or any reasoning for you doing it. Most of the time they could find a reasoning. If they didn't find none, that is wild.
Nothing, no clue that would lead anybody to suspect he was about to do this. Do you find that very unusual to see that?
It is because, like I said, along with the implied motivation of a political assassination or attempted assassination, you do normally find a lot of political ideology in the person's lifestyle and his background and his conversations with people and his associations with people and organizations. And so normally they are ideologues and they are hell-bent on carrying out an act of violence, a political act of violence. It's normally very apparent from looking at their background. And here they're not finding that. So
that's crazy, because no one just wakes up one day and be like, I'm about to go do X, Y, and Z. It normally builds up to a situation, and when it builds up like that, you're leaving breadcrumbs to how you're feeling. Like you said, with conversation with friends, social media posts, Google searches, and this guy had none of it. So to them, it's looking like he just woke up on this day and decided just to carry this out, which is crazy. It's even here.
There's that, and like I said, there's an implied motivation, but it could be he was just out for fame, but oftentimes we also see indications of that in his background. He wanted to become famous because, because killing Trump obviously would make him famous. Or, because we had it's
like with situations, there's usually is a psychological profile that they could follow. And with this guy, it wasn't there. And that is very, very very strange.
Different motivations. When Hinckley shot Reagan, it was because of his fascination with Jodie Foster. It thought he would be famous. The person that killed John Lennon actually was a big John Lennon fan. So sometimes these people have these ideas in their head that this act, I'm going to carry out this act, and then I would be viewed as this other person or in this way. So, that's more of a mental health expert question.
If he would have carried out his act the way that he wanted to, I'm pretty sure on the left side that he would have been looked at as someone who would have been famous, because a lot of people was upset that he didn't carry it out. I don't know why they feel like that. I don't know why somebody want to see somebody else pass just because they running for president. But that was the case right here, which I think is just real crazy.
And what is in his background might indicate that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, a political motivated attack normally has some kind of, he would be more active politically, either online or in person, and we're just not finding that right now.
Damn.
And it could be that he also potentially had a grudge against other people at the rally, because if you take it, obviously the number of shots that were fired, the people who were injured, someone who was killed, and if the explosives in the car, which he could potentially have detonated and harmed a lot more people, it's difficult to know who the exact target was or why. But here's the thing, if you were to watch him...
I didn't even think about that, but that is a great point. Because of the shots that kept going off after he missed, even after Trump was down, it was still shots going off. And the fact that he had the stuff inside of his car to blow up, Trump was going to be nowhere near your car. So like he said, it seemed like he was out to hurt more than just Trump at the time.
Before this, you'd say... something was up with this guy. Why? Because CNN is also reporting that Crooks had visited a shooting range the day before the rally. Apparently he was a member there. Then goes to a Home Depot where he purchases a ladder. Then goes to a local gun store in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, buys 50 rounds of ammunition. Apparently drives to the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, parks the car, uses the ladder to get to the roof of the adjacent American Glass Research Building.
It's like... this guy had everything planned out. Like, he already knew where he was to be located at, because they saying that he had a ladder. So he already knew what the area looked like and where he wanted to be, which is not surprising. It was in PA. He's from PA. He probably been there more than one occasion. But it's just crazy. He already knew, all right, I'm going to need a ladder when I get there to do X, Y, and Z. He sounded like he already knew where he wanted to set up at before he actually set it up there. And I don't even know how do you even walk around with a ladder and no one sees you? Like, no one's paying attention to this guy with a big old ladder walking around a rally. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Building, sets up and opens fire. So Bobby, when we talk about what his motivation was and we see law enforcement trying to set up a timeline here, what do you take away from that?
Well, the young man was very determined. Clearly, he's determined to carry out this attack with all of these steps he's taking. This what we call pre-event planning and pre-event activity, which begs the question on why we're not seeing more rhetoric, more associations in his background that would have led somebody to believe that he was going to do this, because he's a pretty determined individual, as your description rightly spells out. And so someone that determined is so motivated, it's hard not to think that, you wouldn't see some motivation of that in other parts of his life, either online or talking to friends or mentioning something to family members.
Something just ain't right. This is not adding up to me at all. I hear what they saying, but there should be some type of breadcrumb, something that led up to this. It doesn't sound like someone's at the range, someone that really wanted to get a ladder. There was a lot of motivation on their side, and it's just hard to believe that this was expressed nowhere to no one.
If he was able to keep all of this rage and carrying a gun to a rooftop and shooting into a crowd and practicing the day before, I mean, you are determined. There's a lot of rage there, and to have that rage not manifest itself in prior behavior or prior acts or prior discussions is really unusual.
At the time of this recording,
I wonder if this guy, they didn't say it, so I'm thinking he didn't, but I'm just wondering, did he have any criminal history? That's also part of the profile, your criminal history. Most of the time, when something like this happened, they state that to begin with. This person had been charged with this, and this before, or been convicted of this and this. So you didn't hear it. So it sounded like he had a clean record, and this just came out of nowhere.
Bobby, no evidence about how he knew how to make explosive devices. That's not an easy thing. And again, if they haven't found search.
Yeah, and it's like, yo, if it's not in the search history, Google, it's not like you go to a library and find books like this. This information you can only get online. Everything online is traceable. It leaves breadcrumbs that you've been there before. So if they don't have no evidence, the question becomes, how did he know how to make this stuff? And then it goes back to what I was saying. Something just ain't right about this.
Online where he, talk about how to make these devices. I find that weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing I would think of. Look at a search history. Is he searching Google for how to make an IED or something like that? Now, I mean, our guys are digging into it. Our forensic examiners, our computer forensic examiners are good at that. So, if he was able to use, this was a young man, he knows computers. He's of the age that he grew up with them. And so, if he was using some kind of
VPN,
dark web to hide his search histories and stuff, our guys usually find that stuff. And so hopefully something like that happens.
So if they could find that stuff, they basically saying they could find anything. And the fact that they could find anything and found nothing, something just ain't right.
Because I don't know where, unless you somehow got a hold of a bomb making manual, and I don't know how you do that either.
Yeah.
Obviously stuff's readily available on the internet, which leads a trail. If you're not finding that trail, I don't know how a 20-year-old young man without prior military training or any kind of training would know to get those things and how to even crudely assemble them.
Yeah.
Again, at the time of this recording, we haven't seen evidence of it.
Not only how to assemble it, but where to even purchase this stuff at. It's not. I'm pretty sure you can't just walk in the store and purchase this stuff. So it's like, how did you know what to purchase and where to purchase it at? Which is wild.
We figured out how to do that unless he searched it somewhere else, not on his own devices. But you mentioned there's two parts of this, right? So there's two parts of it. There's what do we know about the shooter?
That's something I didn't think about, which is possible he could have just looked up on somebody else stuff. Because most of we all know how this stuff works. We all know they could look up Google searches. We all seen CSI, First 48, all that type of stuff that actually breaks down how they find people. So we all know that. So he could have been smart enough and just use somebody else's stuff. I doubt it, but it is a possibility.
The suspected shooter? And what do we know about the shooting itself and why it happened? That's the second part, and that's what I want to talk about. Because there are a lot of questions, and there are a lot of questions that have been put on the Secret Service. The spotlight has been put on the Secret Service. There's an investigation not just by the FBI, Congress, Department of Homeland Security. And the first question is, how was this American Glass research building where Crooks purportedly shot from, why was it not secured, Bobby? It had a line of sight to where Trump would be speaking. Isn't there an advanced team to check this out?
Done that, and they were...
There is an advanced team. They're so advanced, they come out days ahead of time to make sure every spot that could be viewed from this podium is checked, double checked, and triple checked. The CIA do it, the security of the building do it, and it's done days, sometimes even weeks in advance. So it doesn't make sense how he was able to get that spot, because they knew about that spot already when they searched. So why wasn't it checked? And then keep going to what I'm saying. Something just ain't right.
Probably there on the ground, I don't know, a week or 10 days in advance is the usual. And they would have, anybody, that does threat assessments would have seen that as a vulnerability, that high ground with direct line of sight, not that far a distance. You don't have to be an expert marksman to hit somebody with a rifle from that distance.
Yeah.
And so it's really, the million-dollar question is how, first of all, how the perimeter wasn't set out further. Why that building wasn't part of the inner perimeter, that anybody getting to that building would have to go through security checks, through the magnetometers. That's the first thing. Why wasn't that included in the outer perimeter? It was a very tight perimeter. And the second is, even if it's outside the perimeter, and make no mistake, Secret Service, and I've worked with them on different events, they come in and they take, what they say goes.
Yeah.
When you have a former president or a current president, they are, they don't play well with others. They pretty much set the rules. And if they told local police officers, look, that's outside the perimeter, but we want your guys on top of that because they lend resources, then the cops would have had somebody on top of that. Now, what we heard from the Secret Service director, I think, in an interview, was that they had people inside the building. They were securing. You don't secure a building from the inside. Not a short building like that. And this is not the Texas School Book Depository, so you can't secure it from the inside. I mean, the benefit of that building to any adversary is the high ground, is the roof, and so you had to have people up there.
Yeah.
The fact that it was slow, service.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like you said, like if someone was going to use that building to do what they do, they're going to do it from the top of the building. They're not going to do it from the inside of the building. So the fact that y'all put your resource inside of the building and not on top of the building, it keeps coming back to what I'm saying. Something just ain't right.
The silver inspector even said it was sloped, so there was a safety factor. No, it wasn't sloped that much, number one. Number two, friends of mine who are snipers, they're trained to get themselves into very uncomfortable situations and stay there for long periods of time.
And by the way, the Secret Service snipers were on a slope roof that day. So that's the question. But here's the thing I don't understand. Wouldn't the shooter have had to have known beforehand where the best position to set up was to kill Donald Trump and had to assume that that building wouldn't be secure? Otherwise, he'd be going in, there's no way I'd be able to set up there. I'm sure it's going to be blocked off. I'm sure there's going to be people out there. It was almost as if he knew that was where to set up.
Yeah, that's a question that I had, and I hope obviously the investigation.
That's a question everyone has. It's like, how did he know that? Most people would be scared shitless to walk around with a rifle and a ladder, and he had both, and it was like no problems. The common person was saying I'm not going to be able to do this. It looked like to me he almost did more recon than the CIA did, and I find that hard to believe. Something ain't right.
Is probably looking into that, whether or not he did even more pre-event surveillance. Was he there when they were doing the survey? Was he there the day or two before so he could see where the perimeter was being set up? And he knew that building was out.
I mean, it's like nowadays they could just track you off your phone to see everywhere that you went at. I'm not hearing them say nothing about the phone, but why they not just checking the phone to see was he there the day before? Was he there earlier in the week? And that would answer a lot of questions. And if he never even went there before, then that brings more questions of how did he know exactly where to go to and where to sit at if he never even visited this location before.
Outside the security perimeter. So yes, and the fact that he brought a ladder leads me to believe that he knew somebody might not be up there, and that's disturbing to me because that stuff that's why it should be inside the security perimeter. That's why that stuff should remain kind of secretive. Now, also,
most people would think in their head, if you're trying to go to the roof, it's already be a sniper on that roof. That's how you're gonna think. But the fact that he knew nobody was up there, I don't know how he could have knew that beforehand.
I've heard reports that people saw him kind of acting strange outside the magnetometer. So I wonder if he actually had the thought of, maybe I could get in, maybe I could sneak in. Let's see what kind of security they're thinking. Maybe I can get into the perimeter. And when he realized he couldn't, then went back and retrieved the ladder. And maybe this was kind of a backup plan. I don't know.
Interesting. I'll get to that in a second. I want to go back to this building in terms of who's securing it, because we're getting kind of this. Everybody's pointing the finger at one another. Because was it local law enforcement who was supposed to secure it? Was it Secret Service? And I say that because Secret Service spokesperson Anthony Guglielmi said that it was the Butler Township Police Department and the Butler County Sheriff's Office job to secure that building. But the Butler County DA, Richard Goldlinger, told NBC News they had meetings in the week prior. The Secret Service ran the show. They were the ones who designed who did what. In the command hierarchy, they were top. They were number one. To me, the whole thing is under the jurisdiction of the Secret Service, and they will delineate from there. So who is...
It's like he was saying in the beginning of this video, the guy, he was saying the Secret Service is number uno. Like, they run the show, and we all know that when you got a president or former president, they are going to be the ones that's running the show. And the fact that now people are pointing fingers is crazy, because we all know that the CIA is top dog in all of this.
To me, the whole thing is under the jurisdiction of the Secret Service, and they will delineate from there. So who was in charge of securing the building, Bobby? Was it Secret Service or local law enforcement?
Well, like he said, and I agree with him, Secret Service is in charge of the entire security apparatus, and they coordinate stuff. Delegate. So, in other words, if they wanted somebody on that roof and they didn't have the manpower, they would have assigned, okay, Butler County or whoever, or state police, whoever, you've got to be on that roof. And they would be part of the plan. And what normally
there's no way that I'm believing that the Secret Service don't have the manpower. We know they definitely have the manpower, so I'm not going to even try to imply that they probably didn't have the manpower. They have the manpower.
You do is before the protectee even arrives on scene, you go down your checklist. Is this done? Is that done? Hey, there's nobody on that roof. This person's supposed to be on the roof. Where are they? That's Secret Service. They should be going down their checklist and going, okay, that roof needs to be secured. It's part of the plan. I don't see anybody up there. Right. You have to go. It's like a pilot going through a checklist pre-flight. You go through your checklist and you go down all the vulnerabilities. That roof needs to be covered. There's nobody up there. Where are they? Protectee is not coming out until the person's on that roof. Now, who is supposed to be on there? I don't know, but Secret Service certainly was in charge of making sure whoever that was up there before the protectee comes out.
I like the way you put that. I don't know who's supposed to be up there, but one thing for sure, two things for certain, the Secret Service are supposed to make sure someone's up there. If it's not their people, then it's someone else. But it's their responsibility to make sure that was taken care of, and they definitely did not do what they were supposed to do. So I don't even know why they're pointing fingers at this point in time.
Even if it's outside the perimeter, shouldn't they keep a careful eye on that building throughout, right? I mean, the idea of even if it's outside the perimeter, you don't have to go through a magnetometer necessarily to get in there. Shouldn't that be a place where you station at least one person, or you have your snipers keep a central eye on it? I'm sure they're looking past 130, 150 yards, but if that's a building so close, shouldn't that have been remain a focus?
There should be somebody up there, whether it was state police, Butler County, or Secret Service. Secret Service was in charge of making sure somebody was up there, no matter who was supposed to be up there. And I would like to look at their operational plan and see who they assigned to be up there. And then prior to the protectee coming on stage, why the checklist wasn't looked at and said, there's somebody missing up on that roof. We need to get somebody on that roof. We're not bringing them out until that's done. Right. Now, I think that when you look at the video of the counter sniper who took the shot, they're looking in the direction of that building, and I'm pretty sure that's because they're hearing radio traffic saying somebody's on the roof, because there was some chaotic situation over there. You saw the video of people saying, a woman saying, he's on the roof, he's got a gun. I'm sure that was put over comms. When you look at that roof, it's sloped away, and I don't think the counter sniper guys could actually see the shooter yet. He was crawling up. He was on his belly, and then what happened was, an officer confronted him and then retreated. He turned around with his rifle towards the officer. What that did was make the guy move quicker. Then he popped up really fast over that peak and started shooting. That's when the sniper, because you see them looking there and they're probably saying, I see the roof, I don't see anybody. I see the roof, I don't see anybody. That's because he's behind that slight roof, and then he pops up, and then he starts firing, and then they fire back.
Just to amplify that a little bit and explain what we're talking about, because the next question is, Crooks was apparently spotted there. There were reports that he was acting strange near security. There were other accounts that people saw him with the rifle beforehand. There were others who said they saw him scaling the building, that they alerted law.
Maybe stuff like that. So y'all seen this guy with a rifle, y'all seen him scaling the building, and still nothing was done about it.
Enforcement. In fact, it was being reported that Secret Service was alerted to watch him. And the Butler County Sheriff, Michael Sloop, told...
That's something you don't want to hear. So y'all was told to watch this guy, and nobody still watched this guy? I know if that was me and they told him to watch me, they'd have been watching me the whole time. Why was nobody watching this guy?
Told CBS News that police were looking for Crooks, and they confirmed that an officer scaled the roof. Quote, all I know is the officer had both hands on the roof to get up on the roof, never made it because the shooter had turned towards the officer, and rightfully and smartly the officer let go.
Wow.
I would have done the same thing, absolutely. I mean, people think the officers are supermen, like you hold on the roof with one hand while you're hanging on for dear life and you pull a gun out. It doesn't work that way.
Wow.
So, Bobby, what's your take on that new development that people had apparently seen him, law enforcement had seen him. He allegedly points the gun at a member of law enforcement. Was this just rapidly happening too quickly? And, there might have been an alert that someone's there, but like you said, they couldn't figure out where he was. That's the part that I think people find very strange.
Mm-hmm.
It is very strange. And that should all be taken into account in the operational planning of this thing. And I've been involved in a lot. I was the special events coordinator for the FBI in Los Angeles. We coordinated security for the FBI at the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the Rose Bowl, things like that, with LAPD, with Secret Service sometimes. And so what happens, what should have happened is, and hopefully they're on the same radio. We had this after 9/11, the interoperability of radios between fire and police and federal and stuff. And so normally, the minute somebody sees somebody inside, not even close to the perimeter with a gun, the call goes out, gun, 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 and then the protectee gets taken out. So if that call would have been made, if that officer would have been able to get, somebody's on the roof with a gun, then you take, before any shots are fired, before you even see the guy, take the protectee out, get him to a safe place, resolve what that is, and maybe you put him back up on stage, maybe you don't. But
that makes more sense. If y'all know something going on, get them off the stage. Let's clear the situation up, and then we'll bring them afterward. There's no reason to put innocent bystanders in any danger, and that's exactly what happened in this situation.
As soon as somebody saw somebody with a gun that wasn't accounted for, it wasn't state police, wasn't local, whatever, you didn't know who this person was with a gun, all the radios should have went off, get the protectee safe, and then address whatever that was.
Facts.
That wasn't done here. I don't know if it was undone because of the timing, and like you said, it happened very quickly right after that. I don't know but we need to, see the radio transmission logs, which are all recorded. We need to match that up with the video, so much video, and you're gonna be able to get almost a second by second analysis of who knew what when and why the word didn't go out to get him off the stage the minute they saw somebody with a gun.
Bobby, I have one more question for you. We're actually going to dedicate, I think...
I know behind this situation and what happened, a lot of people need to lose their job. It seemed like a lot of people dropped and fumbled the ball. You need to find out who's responsible, because in any situation, there's always a responsible party. They need to find out the responsible party. They need to lose their job, and then they need to make different protocols. Something like this never could happen again in the future.
A separate sidebar to this, and it's about how Crooks had the weapon, right? So this AR-style rifle, apparently, as I mentioned, was purchased by his father, and it was reportedly more than 20 firearms that were registered to his father. They were kept at the family's home.
More than 25 firearms. His pops is ready to go to war. You feel what I'm saying? Got 20. What? Damn.
We're trying to understand how he got access to it. And also, I guess the side question is whether or not his father could be legally responsible for what happened. In a similar vein,
I don't think the father could be like legally responsible because he had him in his house. He had him the right way. The only time I heard somebody being held responsible when it's a minor, when they under the 18, they're kids, and then maybe the parent could be held responsible. But this guy's 20. He's a grown man. He stole his dad's gun. It's nothing. His dad shouldn't be punished because his son stole his stuff.
We've talked about with the Crumbly case. What are your initial impressions on this? And again, I think we're going to explore this on another sidebar, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of guns. The problem with me is not that people have the guns. It's that they don't know how to secure them, or they're not willing to secure them. I know gun safes are expensive and things like that, but I have guns in my house. They're always secured. You have to keep your weapon secured. Now, the father apparently, I thought maybe had this weapon for a number of years, and the kid had access to it. There's a lot of hunting in that area. The kid belongs to a gun range. He might have been able to legally buy his own guns. I don't know. So maybe the father...
That makes sense. He probably used a lot of his dad's guns. If he go into a gun range, if he didn't have his own, I'm pretty sure his dad was letting him use it, because a lot of us as parents, we want our kids to know how to use firearms, just in case we're not around, someone's breaking into the house, the house is still secure. So a lot of parents, I know a lot of kids, parents are training their kids at 8, 9 to start playing with firearms, to take them apart, and they're doing it the real way. They're now even taking their kids to places to go shoot. So I definitely understand that.
Lent him guns to go to the range, and he's done that for a number of years. So the father had no idea. The kid goes to the range all the time. Maybe that's part of his hobby. People do sometimes have that hobby, and so maybe there wasn't, and like we talked about earlier, maybe there wasn't any indication on the part of the father. In the Crumbly case, there are cases where the kid or the person, the child, the parent, they have some indication that the
man, that kid look innocent. I know as a father, he was like, my son would never do nothing like that. He's a good kid. He don't have no charges. He just got his diploma. He's doing his thing out here. But they say sometimes you can't judge a book by its cover.
Kid has problems and he shouldn't have access to a gun. But here we're talking about, there may not have been any indication that this 20-year-old man should not be able to borrow his father's weapon and go to the range.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much for breaking it down for us. We really appreciate it. That's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as